This is Andy Tube. In this video I'm going to attempt to make an electric flashlight based on the design of Roger, who is the husband of Carole, a longtime Andy Tube viewer. And as I mentioned in the coming attraction video, she shared a picture about her new electric flashlight, and Roger gave a little description about how he made it. And I'm very intrigued by this because I want to go from all of this to an electric flashlight. And I think this is something that most people could do because it involves an electric cord, and it involves a light socket or lamp socket and an LED reflector bulb. Sounds simple enough, right? So I'm going to try and build it, as I said, following his directions, and then I'm going to try it out and review it and maybe give some alternative, not methods really, but parts. And I'll explain all these parts and what they cost me and so forth. So I'm going to unpack these and we'll get started. So I had mentioned before about this cord. This is the power cord for a desktop type computer. I bought it at a Goodwill. It was priced at $1.49, but I happened to be there on a day where green tags were half off. So 75 cents got me the power cord. And the next thing I bought was this Jandorf phenolic medium base light socket. Phenolic meaning it's a type of plastic. It's kind of like a modern bake light, and it's very good insulative quality. And Roger had mentioned that he got the push-through socket, and I'm thinking he did that so that Carole could just pick it up with one hand and turn it on and off and not have to use a twister type. It unscrews right about in the middle and comes separate here. There's like the cap or the top part and the actual socket and a base. Now this base was called the 1/2 inch base, and in here there's threads where you would screw it on like a hollow tube that's threaded when you use it on a lamp, and then it has a little screw to tighten it to that metal threaded extension tube. And this is actually made to handle up to 250 volts and 660 watts. So it's kind of overkill, but I like the one he chose. I don't know if that's just what was available for him, or he liked it because it's a little more heavy duty than the 110 volt one. So think of it more like maybe for a commercial light instead of a residential, but it's more than is needed for this light bulb, you know. But also he liked that the terminations were screw down. You know, we're going to bring the cord up in here and strip off the insulation and a little bit of the leads, and then you can wrap those leads right around the screws, and it's a very good connection. And he liked this versus the ones that have like a little slot with a piece of split metal that you just kind of push the wire into, and it cuts into the wire cuts in through the insulation to make connections in the wire. So I like that idea also. And see, what else was I going to say about it? I think that's it. I talked about how heavy duty this is, and now we're going to get to this LED light that he picked, and I like this too. I never thought about this much, but it's kind of considered a reflector light or spotlight, and it's got a heavy, what feels like plastic cover in the front, and you see some reflector angles in there, but the whole outside here is shielded with this heavy plastic thick coating. So since the idea is we're just going to have this kind of bare bulb sticking out of a socket, and you're going to be poking it around your sewing machine and on the workbench and stuff, I think he was looking for something that was tough and wouldn't break. And because there's not a shield around it, the fact that it's reflective is going to keep the light going forward and not coming out the sides, which is great. So it is more like a flashlight like that, where you turn it on and you focus the light this way, and it doesn't come out the side or anything to glare in your eyes while you're trying to see something in the dark. So I liked his choice for this too. I thought, man, that's a great idea. Good on Roger, huh? So this takes 4.1 watts. That's it. So this can handle 660 watts, and this uses 4. So that's what I meant. This is a little overkill, but it's very sturdy. So, and it's the equivalent, according to the manufacturer here, it's the equivalent of a 45 watt incandescent bulb. That's this line, I think, is called Enhance, and it's vivid natural light. The daylight type of light versus cool white or so forth at 5000 K. The brightness level's rated at 375 lumens. And on the back here it talks about if you used it 3 hours a day, it would cost you 49 cents a year, and it would last a little bit over 22 years. So, which is okay, because these sewing machines last a lot longer than most, and you can pass it on to a family member someday when you're my age. You could. Anyway, I like this natural light. Vivid, that's marketing. Enhance, that's just a way to charge you an extra $1 or $2 for the bulb, but it looks very well made. So I'm liking that choice. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and cut off this female plug here. See if I guess my old wire cutters can still do it. And this is going to be a 3-conductor. So there's going to be 3 wires in there, and they should be color coded, and I see some colors there. So we're going to come down and start stripping off a couple inches of this insulation. So 1, 2, right about there. Now, Carole has a kind of a outlet bar on her workbench, and what's the word for it? Where it's like a surge protector type outlet. So she just plugs it right there, and I'm thinking that's why Roger picked this cord, which is just under 6 feet. So it's like a very good size to have, on the workbench. You can reach around stuff, but you don't have so much cord that it gets to be a big hassle. And that's why I said I'm doing this one the way he did. the way Roger did, and then we'll give it a go. This is pretty tough. I can see why he picked a power cord too. It's pretty tough coating. We've got some insulation here that's kind of designed to wrap the core. So I was hoping for like a red and a black and green for ground, and what I've got is a blue and brown. So we're just going to be using two. I don't think it's going to matter too much, but I should probably look up, and because I'm used to electric wire black is the hot lead, black death, you know, and I'll have to look up here online to see what the blue and the brown signify. Maybe because it's going into a computer, that is why the colors. I gotta believe that the green is a ground and I won't be using it. But let's see if it fits here into the bottom of the light socket. Oh yeah, it's a nice fit. Let me loosen the screw. I think the screw is blocking it just a little bit. Now, it looked to me that I'm going to take that screw out so it doesn't get loose and fall and I lose it. It looks to me like this little centerpiece could almost be knocked out if you had a bigger cord. Oh. Okay, put that in my magnetic dish. Maybe I should have stuck the cord through here before I stripped the ends, or stripped the insulation. I think that little jagged end is getting... I see a little edge inside there. Yeah, I probably should have stuck the cord through before I did the insulation stripping. See if I can just be a little more forceful. And there we go. Yeah, that's a nice fit. Just you're not going to need that screw to hold that in there. So I'm just going to pull quite a bit through here so that I have some wire on the end here to work with. Okay. And then I'm going to take my wire stripper and let's see, what does that look like here? It doesn't, I think maybe a 14 gauge. I'm going to go for about 3/4 of an inch approximately. And that is fitting the number 14 slot. Maybe I'll take a tiny bit more off of that blue one. Okay. Now I want to twist these nice and tight because when they get under those screws, you don't want any, you know, individual wires, like stray wires, getting loose and touching something else inside the socket. So we'll just give those a good righty-tighty twist. Now I'm at the point I got to look up this whole blue and brown thing because I don't want to do something with this if it's not the ground. I may end up needing that for all I know. Okay. But that's our progress so far. Let me go look up this color code and I'll be back. Okay, well that was actually very easy. Where I'm used to in the United States of black, white, and green. This is brown, blue, and green with yellow stripe. And all I did was go to Google and search for electric cord wire colors. And it gave me several charts I could click on, and it showed for different countries around the world. This color pattern seems to be more for the European Union, where the brown is the what we call, well, it's the phase 1 lead. We'd call it the hot lead. Blue is the neutral, which would be usually white in America, black, and then this green with a yellow stripe is the protective ground or earth ground. So I won't be needing this wire into the circuit. So I'm going to, what will I do with this wire? I think what I'm going to try and do here, I'm going to shorten it first. And then I'm going to try and strip off some of that insulation. And then I'm going to try and pull the wire out and push back on that insulation, trying to stretch the insulation down. And then I'm going to cut off the copper wire, and hopefully the wire will retract some in that insulation. This is pretty thick insulation, so I'm not sure if that's, I'm just holding that with my thumbnail and trying to pull up and stretch that wire out. Now I'm going to try and cut the wire off very close to that insulation. So I just tried to pull it out of the insulation somewhat, and now I should be able to pull that insulation back up, and it's kind of covering the bare ends there. Now what I want to do is tie an underwriter's knot in this for strain relief. Not that it's going to be needed that much here, but that's standard. And another reason that I like the screw down type is that it's a very strong way to fasten the wire. So if the wire does get some, strain on it, but that wire is pretty tight. Because of that little shelf that was inside here, I really had to force the cord through. It's a really nice snug fit. I don't think I'd want to tighten the screw in there. I might put it back in and just snug it, but I wouldn't want to turn the screw in so hard that it cut into the insulation. But I want to tie this insulator's knot. At one point in my life, I got a merit badge for knot tying, but I don't remember this underwriter's knot too much. But I think I got a good idea. I'm going to take my wire here, right, and I'm just going to twist that once, maybe, because I don't have a lot of wire to play with here, right? And it's got to come up it's got to come up in here and tie. Then you make a little loop. Matter of fact, I'm going to untwist it because I only have 2 inches to play with. I'm going to make a loop with the brown behind the blue. Okay. See that? So the brown wire comes up, makes a loop behind itself and behind the blue. Then I'm going to take the blue behind my brown, bring it around the front of everything, and stick it through that brown loop that I made. You know, I think there's enough room in space in here. I might have been able to use more than 2 inches of wire, but I'm not sure. And one thing, if you have too much wire and you end up with too big of a knot, it won't all fit back in here properly. So I'm staying with the 2 inches of the conductors. See if I just snug this up a little bit. Maybe if I get that green wire outside of the loop, I can make the underwriter knot, which is made for 2 conductors. This would be standard in a lamp, by the way, and it is, or some other appliances that are hardwired. But the idea is that it's if there's strain put on the cord, it's put on this knot and not on the socket or the socket connection. There we go. So we made the little brown loop by going behind itself and behind the blue, and then we took the blue around the brown and through the brown loop in the front and out the back. Okay? Underwriter's knot. Underwriter's knot. I don't know if that was invented by Underwriter's Laboratory or what. I don't know. Now, let's do our terminations here. You'll notice that one of the screws is silver and one is gold or brass. And the brass is for your hot lead, for your phase 1 lead. So in this case, that is our brown wire. So I'm going to put the brown wire on the, or behind, see if I loosen that screw a little bit more. Depending on the size of the wire, it looks like you could stick bare wire in there and tighten the screw against it, actually. But if you notice, the plate has a little bit of a curve where the screw goes into. And my understanding has been that that is to hold the wire. So getting my strands nice and tight again, I want to put that wire behind there and make a little loop of wire behind the screw. And we'll do what we call dress it in there, and then we'll tighten that screw. Okay. Then we'll see if we have enough slack to come over to this side. Yep, looks like we're just going to make it. And we're going to do the same thing with the blue wire around the silver screw and connecting plate. Stretch it up there a little bit. I might use my pliers on the tip of that wire because I don't have as much slack to play with on this side. Try and dress those ends under the screw and onto that retention plate, and then tighten this up. I want these nice and snug, That looks good. Hoping you can see that. We'll look at our other one. Looks good. And see how this is up snug, so we're hoping that it's all going to fit back down into this little area here. Right? And we're going to find out. So you got to try and pull this. Yeah, that is very snug. So good choice on Roger using this round cord, since the lamp socket opening for this one is 1/2 inch. I noticed some of them were 1/4 inch. So if you were going to use this round computer cord for that, I would say you do want a 1/2 inch opening, not the 1/4. Let's get this in here, and we can pull it because we have our underwriter's knot, you know, so we're not worried of putting strain on the screw connections. Hey, this is too easy, huh? Then I'm going to put my top portion back on. But this will go together snugly and securely. And now we should be able to just screw our light bulb right in there. I'm going to rub this on the side of my nose though. That's what my grandpa always did before he put in a light bulb, or before he put his fishing rods together, because he said that little bit of oil from your nose, you know, later if you ever want to take this out, it'll make it come out easier. So, what do you think? Can we see that here? Let me get all my stuff out of the way. That's what it looks like. Very nice size for holding. Very nice size. You can kind of hold it like that, point it around. Seems to be very tough, so if you bang it into the machine or drop a tool on it or something, I think you're going to be okay. I don't really know which way is on and off, so I'm just going to plug it in and see what happens here. Give me some cord out here. I might as well take this off. I don't need my Goodwill tag anymore. So what do you think? That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Didn't seem like, you know, something that you couldn't do. I don't see if I can do it. I think you could. Let's see. There we go, and in. Oh, it was on right away. Okay, so I'm going to turn it off. And then I'm just going to do the push through and turn it on. See, what do you think? Trying to look through the camera here. See if I could turn off my overhead light. Ooh. Okay, I think I'm going to have to get some kind of a machine up here on my workbench. And I'm not going to point this. It says don't look into there. Whew, even when I look in from the side, my retinas tell me don't do that. That for a 45 watt equivalent, for 4 watts of electricity, those LEDs are bright, aren't they? Wow. I mean, I think you could see some detail with this. Okay, let me find a machine and we'll get it up here on the bench and take a peek inside somewhere. Okay, what I pulled out here was a pretty little Singer Model 413 I took as a trade-in for a machine I had restored, a partial trade-in. And it has the famous stripped out gear on top of the vertical shaft down here. But I thought this would be a good one to try and look inside and see how the flashlight does. So I took the arm cover off, and I took the end cover here for the motor off, and I'm going to change the position of it so we can peek down inside. Okay, let's take a look here. Whee! Looks nice and bright. I might move the tripod around a little by hand here. Sorry if it gets shaky. We see the fork feed connection. Then go over here and look down into the worm gear there. Yeah, boy, it's bright. I didn't know if 45 watts would do it, but it looks pretty good. Sorry, I'm trying to maneuver around the legs of this tripod. What I was wondering is if I stuck the flashlight down here, that I might be able to get you a shot of that broken gear through the space here. Yeah, I would have to take the, well, there you can see kind of the end of the shaft there. Compared to some of the other lamps I have tried to use, like desk lamps, this is real easy to handle and maneuver. Let me turn it and I'll take a look at the motor area. Okay, let's take a look in here now. Yeah, boy, this is much better than a regular flashlight. Let's see if I can get down in there. I can see the bottom of that shaft and up towards the top. Up there. You can see the motor real good. You can see the reverse. Very nice. Wow, I really like this. You got to remember too, you're seeing it through my $200 camera, and I can see it without the camera, and it's much more clear. I think the lens picks up a lot of reflections that I'm not seeing. Yeah. Wow. I like this a lot, Carole and Roger. Okay, so, whoops, my screwdriver. So there we have it, the CR1, Carole and Roger 1 flashlight, electric flashlight. Hey, I wonder how it works on the bobbin area here. Sorry guys, Carole and Roger, I decided to name it. Probably should have taken the nose off and looked here. And again, if you make one of these, you're going to be real pleased, because you'll be looking, not through the camera the way I am. Now, if you wanted to, I will say, when I was looking around to buy these supplies, there are, oh, I didn't tell you the price either. The phenolic switch, the push-through, was more expensive than the ones where you just turn the knob. It's a little bit more. So the switch was $7.99, and the one like with the turn knob was a couple bucks cheaper. And this is the heavy 250 volt 660 watt. The 110 volt, 110 volt, like 200 watt, is a lighter manufacture, but it cost even less. It was like $3.99. And then of course they have the ones that are made out of silver or brass looking metal, and with the turn knob I found some of those for like $1.68. You know, and there wasn't too, I only found one brass push through, and I think it was about $5. And then this light bulb, the reflector type, like this LED, was $6.99, and this was just at a local Ace Hardware. And they had other types of reflector bulbs, some with even a little bit more lumens that were a little bit cheaper. And I did like Roger's choice here though, because this plastic reflector was so thick and sturdy. So you know, I could have saved $5 to $7 overall by using the 110 volt switch and a little bit cheaper bulb. And if you happen to have a cord at home, just like a 6-foot extension cord, I saw that at my local dollar store for $1.49. And it's, you know, it's just like a 2-wire flat white or brown, and it was, like I said, $1.49. You could use that with the 1/4 inch opening switch, and you could save even some more money. Now the other thing, let me show you this lamp I had bought before. What I do with it here, it was a clamp-on light so that I could try and clamp it on areas of my workbench. Okay, and this is made by wood, and it's at all the local stores around my town for $7.49. And you can see I've beat this up pretty good here. But it has a phenolic push through on it also. Okay, and it's the 110 volts, so it's a little lighter weight. Looks like it still has the 1/2 inch opening, but this just screws on and off, and then it has this clamp, you know, so I could like clamp it to an open drawer and stuff like that. And the clamp on this end just uses a wing nut and a little bolt there, and it clamps, take this part off, it clamps right onto the phenolic bulb here. Okay, now you can see I've dropped it severely and it's broken off the edge here, but it still works, you know. And when I open this up, it has the type of push connector that Roger had talked about. Let me show you that. See how they just kind of push in there. So this looks like it just strips off the end, twist the wire, and poke it in a little hole, like a compression hole. And you see that there's no underwriter knot or anything like that. But here you could get the phenolic switch and a cord. You may already have something like this, some kind of a work light. But this is the little bit lighter, smaller version of the 110 compared to the 250 volt. And like I said, the plastic is just smaller, it's thinner. I wouldn't let the fact that this piece broke off here bother you, because I did drop this a couple times. I had it hanging like up on the curtain trying to shine down. I just fell off and bounced off the top of a machine and knocked this whole thing off of the lamp and everything. But then you could, if you had one of those, you could transfer the clamp piece to your new CR1 flashlight, if you wanted the capability, you know, to put it together on there and have a clamp in your work situation. You know, you may want to use it for something other than sewing machines, working on the car, doing woodwork, or just other craft work, you know, quilting, I don't know. But I will show you that because of this medium base socket, that's a standard here, it would fit in this wood clamp light, wood brand clamp light. Let me plug it in, and it would, you know, it would be the same thing. Okay, so if you happen to have some kind of a clamp light like that, and you see that it just has a standard 2-wire lamp cord, you know, like 6 feet, and you can, like I said, I can buy those for $1.49 here. And so if you happen to have one of those, and you could use a much longer cord. I mean, this thing only pulls 4 watts. You could put a 200-foot cord on here if you wanted to, and take it out to, you know, trim your bushes at night. And if you were at a yard sale and somebody had an old 20-foot extension cord, you could buy that and cut off the female receptacle at the end, you know, like those orange extension cords, or an old Christmas one, green, you know, 15 foot, 20 foot, 50 foot, 100 foot. You know, it doesn't have to be a 6 foot. That's perfect for me, and I like Roger's idea of using this because it's enough to maneuver around on my little workbench here without a ton of cords being in the way. So there is some options for you. If you have one of these clamp lights, you could convert it and reuse the clamp even if you wanted. You could use a cord that you already have, or a longer cord if you wanted to. And you like I said, you could buy the metal one, and it's safe. I like this, that this isn't going to get warm, but this light doesn't get warm. I noticed after I had it on before, I touched it here, and it's like, oh, it's a little bit warmer than the room temperature in my house here, but you know, it doesn't get hot at all. I mean, you could hold it just like that if you wanted to, you know, to have better control on it. But you could make it altogether. This was, let's see, 7 and 8 is 15. The cord $15.75. So with some taxes, sales tax I had to pay, let's call it maybe $17 for everything new and this heavier and this very nice LED light. You know, you can buy a standard kind of bulb shape LED lights at the dollar store where I'm at for $1.49, but they're a cool white, and they just have kind of a plastic cover. I guess you could paint them silver or wrap some duct tape around them, you know, but that's up to you. But for me, a $17 tool like this, as much as I'm going to use it, I'm really happy with it. The CR1 by Carole and Roger. You guys were great to share this with me, and I'm excited to share it with my viewers. And if you're interested, you can see how easy it is. I mean, I put it together in 15 minutes or so, explaining everything as I went. So thanks for tuning in to see the electric flashlight. And I'm hoping that my machine for my next series will be here soon. I've already named her Lala, and it's a model I have never done before, so it's going to be interesting for me. You can learn with me as I go along and discover all about this machine. Hopefully coming soon. Take care of yourself, be safe.